I've decided to end the Hong Kong series with a Soho Central Mid-Levels Escalator vlog because that's where all of this began. So instead of the 3 questions, I'm just going to forego all of that and tell you a story. When I first moved back to Hong Kong, I was invited out to Central by Raquel because it was the halfway point between Tung Chung Crescent at the time and Jubilant Place. I think it was Tung Chung Crescent. We probably already lived in CC. But it was Tung Chung. So the halfway point, obviously, of Kowloon Side and the islands is Central, because it is Central after all. Central Market did not look the way that it now looks. It was a very dilapidated, run-down building. I'm really glad they fixed it. It's very different now. We would always take the escalators up. There was no Tycoon yet at the time. There was no PMQ yet at the time. Usually we would end up eating along either like Shelley Street or Peel Street. We had a really cute Mexican place that we used to go to. That's where we would constantly be around, like Peel Street, Staunton Street. Now you go back, you go down these roads and it's very different now. Half the places that I went and opened 5 years ago, don't exist anymore. I don't usually go all the way up the Central Mid-Levels escalators. It's too far. It ends on Conduit Road. There has been a lot of reconstruction and renovation, which is pretty good because it's like 30 years old now. So yeah, it was time for a change. Also, there has been so much change on the escalator itself that now we have like random exits, like elevators and stairs that didn't exist before. Once you were on it, you had to keep going until you could get off the street. So if you missed one, you're hard pressed. You have to like come back down. But these days, they saw how inefficient that structure was, so they cut it and it helped, I guess. There are different ways to go down the hill. I prefer to walk, but people who end up living or ending at Conduit Road usually go down on a minibus. So when I used to go, because we were funemployed at the time, the best time to go for us was usually between like after lunch, or like a late lunch of like 1:32, and it wouldn't be that hot anymore, up until like 4:30. Up is the direction of the escalators. The only time the escalators go down is during the mornings when people are on their way to work. I've found really creative ways of coming back down. My favorite way to come back down the hill is through Hollywood Road, because like there are so many small nooks and crannies that have since become known for good drinks or good food, and so it's always a treat to walk around those areas where there's lots of trees just to see what's new. Over the last decade, a lot of the nights that I spent out were in Soho. Every time I went out, there was always a new thing to be seen or a new spot to check out. If there's one thing that I've learned, especially from Soho, is that you can always go back to it because it is always new. That's a good thing and a bad thing. There are places that are landmarks that won't ever change, like the 7-Eleven, the corner of Peel Street. But there are also places that are a welcome change. You know, sometimes you need the city to change with you. I've always had the issue of I'm not very easily adaptable just because a lot of the places I can't get over it because they're attached to a memory, they're attached to a particular person or a group of people or an event in my life that may not necessarily have been positive in the end. That's the one thing I appreciate about Soho. It's that you keep going back even after 3 months, even after 6 months, especially after the pandemic. Like half the stuff that like I was tentative to visit again doesn't exist anymore. Obviously there are still some places that exist that I just like look away whenever I pass by. But I've also learned that change is good and change is healthy and change is important, because the things that do stay remind you that that's where you've come from. It's no longer this fear that, you know, it's like a scar on your skin. It's not like that. It's a reminder that you've grown, that you've changed, that you've had these experiences, that it's an overall good thing. That's what I really appreciate about this whole series. I can walk around this place that I call home and remember how much I love it because the whole point of this whole thing was to go back and reclaim parts of myself that I thought and felt that I had lost. I feel like I've been able to do that successfully just because if it weren't for the vlog, if it weren't for the motivation to make an effort, then it would be more of like a passive experience. It wouldn't be an active, okay, what do I remember about the place? What do I appreciate about the place? And because I have the purpose of making it make sense to the audience that's watching the vlog, it's like, yeah, what do I want you to take away from this? These places are different in the morning, they're different in the afternoon, they're different at night. So there's always something different to see. It's been a very cathartic experience to just let it all like remind me. It's always good to look back on where you've come from. I've said that before. But also to be okay with the changes that you are experiencing. You may not know what the purpose of those changes are at the time, or you may not necessarily welcome them. It still bothers me that my favorite records place is closed. It's so sad. I don't people have asked me, oh, where do you shop for vinyls? And I'm like, secret. And now it's closed, so it makes me sad. But the point of, being okay with that is because it makes room for new things. The new things may not necessarily be good things, but too early to tell, right? We can never tell. I like how in my mind there's like this clear distinction between work and play. Like, I'm glad I got to work nearby, like work right below PMQ, while still being able to go to PMQ on the weekends and enjoy it without feeling like I was at work. I also really like how everything is familiar but also very different at the same time. One of the only gigs we've been to post-pandemic was in one of those alleys. And I was like, oh, I know where that is. But as soon as you went, it was like in a new building in like a different space that had been converted. And that was a nice like surprise, because that's the gift and beauty of living in Hong Kong. Like, you think you know it well, and then turns out, nope. It's like the gift that keeps on giving. Having a fresh perspective is so important because it helps you appreciate and live in gratitude for what's in front of you. I think that's the biggest lesson that I always go back to. Like, I'm grateful I live here. I'm grateful I have this opportunity to not have to drive, and that public transportation makes everything so accessible, and that there's always something new to see here. Being grateful helps you remember and be okay with the things that change, right? And the things that stay the same. No matter what happens now, whatever changes come, I feel like I am ready to weather that. I don't know if I actually am. We shall see. But I think like right now in this moment, I am ready to start something new as I end this. The reason why I really enjoyed traversing the escalators is because so much was shot there. So many pop cultural references allude to the central mid-levels escalators. When Morgan Freeman shot with Christian Bale in that movie that one time, or when they were doing like a Transformers scene, like, it was pretty cool to know that that was something that I walked on the daily, that I had access to. So in a way, the Central Mid-Levels escalators also started my love for all things Hong Kong cinema. And by Hong Kong cinema, I don't just mean like Western movies shot in Hong Kong, but also like Hong Kong movies shot in Hong Kong. If I were to do another project, it would probably be like a Hong Kong movie tour, or just like different tours of places in Hong Kong that have been featured in movies. I'm gonna end with a tip on how to maximize this trip up and down. So from the Central Mid-Levels escalators, when you hit after the second elevation, walk into the elevated walkway that overlooks Hollywood Road. And there is a MTR fare saver. $2 off your next MTR. So tap your octopus card if you want to save money, and then walk all the way up. And then grab a drink or some food. And if you want to walk back down, I would suggest you zigzag down instead of walking straight down. It's actually kind of scary for people who are freaked out by stairs. I would not recommend, but definitely go through Peel Street and then walk down a bit, Staunton and walk down a bit. Enjoy the sights. That's like the best thing. The fun facts of the Central Mid-Levels escalators. So the Central Mid-Levels escalators are the longest outdoor covered escalator system in the world. It's 800 meters in distance and it has an elevation of over 135 meters. It opened in 1993 and it's the link between Central and Mid-Levels. The top stage of the escalator system is between Robinson Road and Conduit Road, and it starts at Central Market. The Central Mid-Levels escalators connect all of these different streets. Central Mid-Levels escalators. So it goes from Devo Road, or the Central Elevated Walkway, former Central Market, which is now the refurbished Central Market, Queens Road, which connects the 100 QRC. So I used to say I worked at the center, and then my sister works at 100 QRC. So this escalator is very important to us. And it goes down Cochrane, but then it bisects Stanley, Wellington, Gage, Hollywood Road, goes down kind of Old Bailey Street, which connects us to Tycoon. And then it goes down Staunton, Elgin, and then through Shelley Street, Kane Road, which is where the cathedral is, Princess Terrace, Lungfai Terrace, Rednaxella Terrace, where Jose Rizal lived at one point, the Jamia Mosque, and then Mosque Street, and then Peel Street, Mosque Junction, and then Robinson Road, Conduit Road. And it takes you 20 minutes. That's why this vlog is going to be 20 minutes long, I think, because it's a 20-minute vlog. Fingers crossed. For those of you who know, please keep praying for me. I am going through a lot of changes, but that's the beauty of staying here in Hong Kong, because you don't feel so alone. With all the change that's happening around, it's like it gives you permission to change as well. The whole purpose of vlogging is to remind myself of this particular moment in my life, this particular period in my life where things look this way. And so maybe in a few years I'll look back and like, oh, that's what SoHo used to look like, or I'm really glad that I got to do this. I'm really glad that I achieved the goal that I wanted to achieve with this series, which is to fall in love with Hong Kong again. I think I've done that. Thanks for being here to watch me do that. It's setting me up for more things to do. Like, how else can I pay homage to my home? Honestly, I don't know. For me, this is more falling in love with Hong Kong than it really was like a tour guide of Hong Kong. I like to think I'm a tour guide, but I don't think the series was for that. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sitting with me through this whole process. It's been really exciting for me. I hope you've gotten to know the Hong Kong I love a bit more through my eyes, and you got to know me, kind of. That's important to you. I'll see you at the next vlog. Bye. That's all, folks. So that's why I pulled out my iPad.